Welcome to another conversation in our FM Expert series. Today I'm joined by Dominic Ponniah. Dominic, good to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure. Really good to see you, Beth.
Yeah, really good to see you too. And Dominic, as some of you will know, is the CEO and co-founder at Cleanology. Dominic and I met last year when I was judging the IWFM Leader of the Year, and Dominic, you won it.
I did. I still can't believe it.
Well, congratulations. Along with, we were just discussing, we think you probably entered about another 7 or so different awards and won, I think, 5 of them. You had an incredible year. Absolutely incredible year. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you entered the awards at the beginning of the year not knowing what's going to happen, and we were very lucky to do as well as we did. So
no, it's been really good to see. And we were saying that we think you started Cleanology about 20 years ago. So you've worked in this sector for about 20 years. And what Dominic's going to talk to us today about is ESG and sustainability, of course, in cleaning, but also in FM and business more widely. And yeah, I've got my pen to hand. I'm going to make lots of notes here, Dominic. So I'm going to hand over to you, please.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Well, yes, 20 years ago, like many people, I fell into FM by accident. My mother had originally started the business, and she was only doing it as a hobby, and I got involved. We put the website together and put us out there, winning some more business. Then we got to about 5 employees, and I think at that point she decided she'd had enough and stepped away and handed over. So 1,400 employees later, I'm still here. And yeah, very much enjoying it. So I thought I would talk a little bit about ESG and sustainability. It's a very big topic at the moment, and especially coming out of COVID has become really a hot topic. And I think before kind of COVID, sort of maybe even sort of 10 years ago, it was very much a sort of a nice to have, and there used to be sort of sustainability manager, and it was very much seen as a bit of a niche thing. And when we first started 20 years ago, everything we did was about sustainability, and we obviously still do that, and are very much, hopefully people will agree, market leaders in that space. But I think since COVID, it's really become a lot more prominent, and it's really become a sort of board level agenda item. So it's no longer a nice to have, it's an absolute requirement. And for many people who are getting into the industry, it's now sort of very much front and center of everything that we do. So the ESG bit, just so in case people are not aware, is the environmental, stands for environmental, social and governance. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the environmental and the social aspect, not so much the governance. I'll leave that to someone else who's more of an expert. But just on the sustainability piece, first of all, I see sustainability very much as not just about the environment. It's about people and planet, because at the end of the day, if you're going to be a sustainable business, it really is about sort of people, planet and profits as well, actually. And it's that sort of mix that has to be part of sustainability. It's not just about the environment, especially in our sector. It's so people orientated. And what what we do with our people and how we look after them and things is absolutely fundamental to everything we do and how successful we are as a business. So yeah, just on the people side, first of all, we see fair pay as being a big part of that. So very much something that we support is the real living wage, as an example. And it's not just for our frontline employees who are obviously earning low pay, trying to support them, but also it's about being what type of business are you, and it's about attracting people to your business who want to be part of a business that does things the right way. So I see ESG and sustainability very much as a talent acquisition tool as well, and very much part of our strategy to attract not just really good people to our business, but also really good clients, quality clients.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking then, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I say historically, it's still the case, but the client procures the service as a contractor. You're then, trying to win that business and then delivering the service. But what you're sort of saying is we want to have clients who reflect our values, which
Absolutely.
is,
And 100%. And as you get bigger, you can do that, and you can be a bit more picky and choosy. Now we I wouldn't quite say interview our clients, but we certainly want to work with like-minded clients. And there are many that we have turned away. I mean, last year we said goodbye to, a £250,000 client, which you don't walk away from every now and then. You have to really take those decisions, seriously. And, again, this year with the real living wage going up by 10%, there are a lot of clients who are struggling to swallow that increase. So it is going to be a bit of a test this year for many of the companies that support the real living wage. But I think, it is the right thing to do. And, from a commercial point of view as well, it costs you more money, but it kind of doesn't, because you want to have staff who are going to stay with you and who are going to last. And when they do, you can deliver a better service. You get more consistency in what you deliver. And actually, ultimately, it costs you less money because you spend so much time and money recruiting. Not just frontline staff, but above that as well.
When I teach FM courses, one of the things we talk about obviously is life cycle costing, looking at the bigger picture. But if you look at the life cycle costing of staff, yes, you might be paying more as a wage initially, but actually you're saving money through recruiting because the cleaning industry famously has got a very, very high turnover, hasn't it? So if what you're doing is treating people better and keeping them for longer, you are saving money.
Absolutely. And helps with the bottom line. I mean, our retention is 94% against an industry average of 79 and a UK general average of 86. So it does make a difference. And it's hard though at the moment because two back-to-back 10% increases is not insignificant. And I think Brewdog was one of the big companies this recently who said they're not going to support it. So it is tough. It is very tough out there. But I think you do have to, at the end of the day, say this is what we're about, this is what we stand for, and you have to be prepared to walk away from business. But I think that matters because I think, also, the relief, well, I can put it like that our team felt when we walked away from this contract, who are a nightmare last year, they also felt, actually, do you know what? They are listening to us. They do back us. And that's the kind of company I want to work for, not a company that says I'm going to send you out no matter what. So that is really important. And I think you interview people these days, and I mean, for a start, the employees now interview you as the employer to say, what kind of company are you, which is which is fair enough. But also, they do say, what do you do on sustainability? What are your principles? What do you stand for? Not so much, what is my pay and what am I going to get out of this? So people really want to work for companies who reflect their own values, which is really interesting because it never used to be like that, or not as much.
It has changed. No, and I think COVID absolutely has been the change agent in that as well, hasn't it? Yeah,
it has changed people's the way people look at things. And then just also I think just ESG and sustainability is also a real differentiator. There are still a lot of businesses who aren't doing it, and one of my pet topics is the race to the bottom. And just competing on price, because at the end of the day, if you compete on price, somebody else does it cheaper, then your USP is gone. There's not much longevity or stability or sustainability with competing on price. I think it's really important to compete on other terms, and that's where you can really distinguish yourselves, I think, as a business from other people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But have you seen in business a difference in if you look at the business wins over the last, let's say, 10 years, You will, I'm sure, have lost some wins because of not being the cheapest. But has that dropped off? Yes, your reputation, I'm sure, has improved. But equally, I think clients are becoming a bit more savvy that it's not just cost. Cost is always going to be there. Let's not be naive about it. But like you say, there is more to it. So I wonder if I don't know if you could measure it. It'd be interesting to measure it, wouldn't it, over the last 10 years, if there has been a big difference with cost not just being the decision.
Well, coming out of COVID, I would say 21, 22, we won the vast majority of business that we went for. So I think we had a win rate of about 70%. And that none of that was based on price. It was all because they wanted to work with us as a business because of what we do and how we do it. I would say last year, though, that did change, and last year price became a much bigger factor. We lost a £300,000 contract on 9p an hour last year, which is like, incredible that those are the margins that it comes down to.
Yeah. 9p an hour, right? Okay. Yeah. And the amount of work that goes into something like that to sort of put those figures together, and yeah, I can feel the frustration coming back. But it's interesting. So is that cost of living, I guess, financial crisis, everyone under pressure, utility costs going up? I guess it's all of that stuff, is it, coming into it as well?
Yeah, very much so. I think that is now a big factor. In all tenders, I think price has become a lot more important than it was probably a year or two ago. Which is a bit of a shame. Yeah.
And if you think of what we're doing, obviously, with these conversations, is we're sort of giving little nuggets of useful information for people either who have been in FM for a while or who are looking to learn a bit more. In the piece around ESG and sustainability, there's no question that it's something that FM's people working in and around FM should know about. Back in the day when I started in FM, it was you had to know about health and safety. Well, that's now given.
Yeah.
ESG, sustainability, anything around the environment now, I think, is probably one of the big things. What else is there that you could? We talked about the sort of people side. You explained that ESG is obviously environmental, social, governance. So the social piece, I guess, to some extent, is where you've got how you look after your staff, how you look after your supply chain. Bring it to life a bit more for us in terms of some of the useful things, perhaps also around the environmental piece and some of the things that I don't know, people could take away in terms of things to look out for, things that are changing.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you are starting out now in FM, I think ESG is definitely one of the biggest, if not the biggest, kind of topic of conversation, when it comes to tenders and things. I can't remember when I last sat in a tender and they asked me about how do you make sure our building is kept clean? It tends to be all the other things. And if I was interviewing or going for a job these days, I would really do my research and drill into the company that you're looking to work for. Is that important to them? Is it something that they're actually doing or that they say they're doing but not actually doing, if you know what I mean? Greenwashing. Because I think if you are going to work for a company, you really want to make sure it is one, I think, at the moment, that is really going, meeting these kind of obligations, but going over and above, and that really is, believing it and doing it, and not just saying they're doing it, but actually really doing it, because it is the future. And if you're in a company that is leading that way, leading that space, then that's a good company to be with and good company to work for. And there are so many good companies who are doing that, but there are a lot of companies who are not really doing it or sort of ticking the box. And if you want to have I'm absolutely convinced that people who are, leading in this area are going to be the ones that do really well. So,
I agree.
It's undoubtedly the next 5 years, if not beyond. And it has taken a while for, I think COVID has kind of propelled that. But yeah, if you were looking for a company to work with, either as an employer or even as a supplier, in whatever regard, that's definitely for me probably the most important area now. And it's the number one thing we get asked for as a business when we interview candidates.
And is there an expectation that supply chain will have things like ISO 14000, or is that not such a big thing? Is it some of the other bits that sit around that in your experience more recently?
I think it comes back to what you said a minute ago, which is that it's really a given now. So you know, ISOs, health and safety, you know, it's like if you're not doing that, you shouldn't be in business. It is definitely a given. But I think now it's sort of, you know, what is your plan to get to net zero and all those kind of things. You know, that's now really where companies are going to be tested. And it is kind of moving towards, you know, not being optional but being mandatory, and it's kind of who can get there quickest. And those that don't, whether you like it or not, really, and obviously there are a lot of people who, you know, don't care about it, or, you know, are not that interested, but it is, like it or not, that's the way things are going.
It's the future. It is the future. What just quickly on net zero, the UN refer to it as the biggest challenge ever faced to try and achieve this by 2050. What are some of the big things in your sector that we're seeing that you're, without giving your trade secrets away, what is really shifting for you to head towards that?
I mean, there's the obvious thing like vehicles. I mean, there's still a question mark over whether electric vehicles are greener than you know, regular.
They say it's a 10-year line, don't they?
Yes.
They say they don't start wiping their nose until this kind of 10-year piece. Yeah, but then after that they are.
So it's a bit controversial. But I think in our particular sector, it's really kind of chemical usage and using or minimizing chemical usage. People are moving towards chemical free cleaning, and also a lot more smart machinery where you're using less water, less product, and more natural resources. So that's having the biggest impact and the quickest. Yeah.
So less water and less product. And I wonder how intelligent your FM clients are, and I don't mean to sound disrespectful when they're going out to tender asking these questions, or are they expecting you to be leading it? You know, are they saying, tell us what you're doing, or are they sort of having boxes that you're having to jump through in terms of specific areas? Is it quite broad still, the questions they're asking around net zero?
Yes, I would say so. In general, I mean, there are some who are quite savvy and quite you know, really quite educated in this area. You know, they're really quite in tune with what's going on. But I would say the majority aren't still. I think it's still quite, you know, quite a long way off. You know, it's kind of like, what do you do on sustainability is kind of the main question you get asked. But I think that's going to change. I think, you know, given another couple of years, it's suddenly going to be very much focused on net zero and all that side of things as well. It's going to be much, the bar is rising all the time.
It is. It has to, doesn't it?
So, you know, it's a question of who's going to kind of, you know, keep up, and there are those who will get left behind.
Yeah. I'm going to draw us to a close. Before I do, is there one final kind of top tip / plea that you can leave with the people listening to this fabulous conversation?
A plea. I would say you probably should pick an employer, a client, a supplier where your values are aligned over price. I think, you know, if you can work with like-minded people, you can pretty much overcome anything, I think. And price is certainly something you can have a discussion around. But I think you can't change a company, or you can't change the way people work and the way that they think and behave. So I think the values alignment is just so important now, more important than ever.
Yeah, and it's asking the right questions to get there in the first place, isn't it? And that's a little piece of work there, isn't it? That would be a magic pill that you could offer. Brilliant, Dominic. Look, really, really lovely to speak to you. We've been trying to do this for a while, and I'm really pleased that we've finally done it. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, and continue having a very successful few years.
Thank you very much. Really good to see you, Beth.
Thank you.
Thanks.